Hi. Okay. So a lot of these videos that I'm doing are about recovery from mind-body symptoms, but it's also very, very essential to bringing the base level down of the nervous system down to a level that it's designed to be at homeostasis, so that homeostasis can occur in the body. And this is how good health is achieved. The body is designed for health. It's just designed that way. But the nervous system has to be back down to a base level, okay, for homeostasis to occur. And for the autonomic nervous system to send the correct information to all the systems of the body, okay? And this is basic, really basic science. And once we get that nervous system regulated again, then all perfect health is within reach, right? So this is really important medicine. It's really super important stuff to understand for all of us. The things that I'm offering, I'm really addressing the people that are suffering from mind-body symptoms, which are way more people than we realize. But yeah, this is about recovery. And I want to talk about my number one platform that I use on myself throughout my day, okay? To really build the resilience of the brain and the nervous system. And it really works, okay? So I'm not teaching the science, because there's lots of other science. There's lots of resources out there to learn the science of TMS, tension myositis syndrome, mind-body syndrome, neuroplastic pain. There's lots of science. I have a bunch of it on my website, and feel free to learn that, so you know how your mind-body operates, okay? And so you start to understand yourself, okay? And Amma, my guru, always talks about, this is about a deep exploration, an intense exploration of self, this work, all right? So my number one platform that I use all the time is so powerful, yet so simple, okay? And it's the concept of allowing. And allowing can only happen from the unconditioned awareness of self, all right? And this unconditioned awareness of self, which I talked about in my last video, is available to all of us, all right? It's what sees, it's what notices, it's what's aware, okay? But then what happens is, as identification slips right back inside right after that and identifies with what it sees, okay? And allowing doesn't have an agenda. It doesn't have an agenda to fix or get rid of or change or any of that. It meets everything as it is. And when we're working with mind-body stuff, a lot of what we have going on is in the unconscious or subconscious, but mostly unconscious. So we are not aware of what's going on in there, okay? It's all unconscious programs. And the brain has learned, because its job is to keep us safe, that a lot of that stuff is not safe. It's been taking in information our whole life, and who knows what kind of stuff we came in with, right? And it's learned what's safe and what's not. And when what's not safe has gotten too much and it keeps happening throughout our life, right, the brain sends that symptom, which I've talked about before. So we start to notice these places in ourselves that are creating this message of danger. And this takes a little bit of application, okay? And this is where those modalities of like journaling and meditation come in very handy, because they help us develop the awareness. And that's what they're for. They're not here to help us get rid of symptoms, okay? The symptoms will only resolve when our brain stops feeling overwhelmed by danger, okay? And if we have symptoms, our brain is overwhelmed by danger. And that's what happened to me. And it's not something that happened consciously. It happened unconsciously, right? And there was a lot of stuff that happened in my life that contributed to that. And none of it was my fault. It was all unconscious, okay? But having the awareness to start to see what happened was super powerful for me in my recovery. But then I got a little bit hung up on some things. And one of them was not really knowing how to navigate my relationship with my symptoms. Because even though I knew not to obsess and monitor and focus on the symptoms, because that gives the brain more danger, there was still an underlying component under there that was afraid of the symptoms. It was afraid of hurting. It was afraid of being seen all, I looked pretty bad. And I hadn't met that part, okay? But once I tried all these other things and the symptoms weren't really going away, there was still this something going on, okay? And when I went back to India last winter, my symptoms started to come back up again. And they had come back way down. I had really gotten a lot better. I mean, I was pretty much fine. I was hiking and everything. But when I went back to India, they came up again. And there was a lot of memory going on from when I used to live there, 30 years ago. So being with Amma, she started giving me this direct transmission of allowance. This is powerful stuff. And sitting in her presence, I started to learn how to allow. Allowing everything, okay? And allowing started to bring in this huge message of safety into the brain and into the system. And this is what really changed my understanding of things, okay? Because I know that in the mind-body world, there's quite a few people out there that says, don't be afraid of your symptoms. You got to get to a place where you're indifferent, that you don't care about them. And I found that very difficult. I didn't want them there, okay? But what I discovered in the allowing was that there were still parts in myself, in my psychology, in the unconscious, that I hadn't acknowledged and allowed. And there was a lot of fear, okay? Which would make sense, because if there's fear of the symptoms, there's fear in the system, right? If there's fear of what I'm feeling and experiencing, there's fear in the system. So once I learned how to allow the fear that was underneath the fear of the symptoms, the fear that was underneath the fear of life, right? I'm sharing something very vulnerable here. I learned how to allow that fear. I opened the gate to the unconscious. And the unconscious started to feel safe enough because it was coming from the unconditioned awareness of self. And that's what started to give that message of safety. And in the allowing, everything started to feel safe enough. And there was a lot of fear that came up. I had no idea that it was in there. because, I seem pretty confident, but it was there. And I could see in my interactions with my relationship with life that there was something amiss. And once I learned how to allow everything I encountered, then it could transfer over, allowing whatever symptom might show up. There was no more fear of it. And everything started to balance out. Okay? And this was key. And there's a lot of other variables in there, which I'll talk about later. But this was key. This is the foundation of my work now. And this is what is bringing that nervous system back to homeostasis and normalcy and changing my life. It is so profound. And I really feel strongly about the power of allowing from the unconditioned awareness of self. It is the kindest thing we could do for ourselves. Because all that we're encountering isn't us. It's not who we are. And this is freeing up the self in the mind-body complex. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, and I'll see you later. I hope this was helpful. Okay, bye-bye.